Hello, hey, good morning, or good day, or good afternoon. Whatever goodness is happening, let it be yours. All right, look at that. Up and running and decent lighting. That's what's happening right now. It's all coming together. So feel free to join me. We got a little happy hip stuff happening. Hang on, let me just make sure I got my clock up. Otherwise, we'll just do yoga all morning, which I think would be delightful. But would be an adventure. All right. Well, hey, how you doing today? What's going on? What's shaking? What have you been up to so far this summer? If you are kind of catching me somewhat roughly around when they're recorded, we are mid-July here in Western Canada. We go to old Edmonton area. And oh yeah, I got a little tea this morning. I just think yoga is so much fun if you have a beverage with you. Sometimes it's coffee, sometimes it's tea. I mean, I call it like working on branding the real person yoga. And in the mornings, I like some tea or some coffee. So if you need to grab a little beverage and join in, that works too. So I've got an unsweetened vanilla matcha latte. That is what's happening this morning, but it is like so hot I can't even touch it. So yeah, that's what I like to drink. What do you like to drink? What's your wake up routine? Let me know. Are you like coffee first thing? That's usually what I am, and I'm trying to switch over to tea. So doing a little tea challenge. Yeah, and it's good. It's delightful. I thought that would go very well with just my goals, my dreams. Cut out a bit of caffeine. We'll see if I can do it. Okay, well, let's get into a little bit of yoga this morning, because that is what I'm all about. Is some free yoga every morning, at least until the end of the month. That's what's happening. Hey, Janet. Iced tea today, is that what that says? I really need to actually wear my glasses. And Doreen is here this morning. Yeah, with some milk. Yeah, do a little milk in with my tea as well, whether it be even like, well, in my matcha green tea, I feel like that feels pretty normal. And I drink a lot of chai tea as well. So, all right, leaving at 8:30 again, that's okay, we can make it work. We'll still give you a nice hip stretch from now until then. So, also thanks for commenting. I love getting a little feedback when I'm just sitting here like chatting about who knows what it is. Sometimes I do serious stuff, sometimes it's simply about tea and coffee and a little more lighthearted. But it is nice to just feel that little bit of connection as we are still trying to distance and be responsible in those kind of ways. So thank you for joining in, having a little movement in your day, having a little practice. So let's settle on down, find that nice comfortable starting position. So like I say a whole bunch, it can be seated, laying down, really just start however you want. I, on camera, start seated. But if I'm doing yoga, I love to start laying down, feeling that spine connecting in, kind of feeling and getting into the body a little bit better, a little bit more relaxing, other than still trying to work on that posture as I'm sitting here. But both great options. Oh my goodness. Okay, what did you say? I need to like lean closer. Sometimes I try to make it bigger, but I didn't. Oh, the sweet chocolate. Okay, with water and milk. It sounds good. I will. Are you babysitting puppies at work? I noticed that so she works with Dogs with Wings. If you're wondering who Doreen is, and I hope you don't mind if I share, but she works with Dogs with Wings, which I think is super cute. And they've been posting, if you don't follow them on Facebook, go and follow them. If you want cute puppy photos, like last night I got my fill. They've got a brand new litter as they're helping people out. And oh my goodness, they have a little mommy dog and her puppies that are getting a little bit older. They're opening their eyes, and oh my goodness, they just melt my heart. So wonderful organization. Can't say enough great things about them. Elisa, good morning. Welcome to some Happy Hips Tuesday. So good to have you with me live as well. It's excellent. So okay, back to doing the yoga. I'm just excited. Must be the tea. I'm like vibrating already. I'm doing good. Okay, so let's start with a nice big inhale and a full exhale. Let's start there. Let's start to slow things down. Let's take that big breath in. See if you can breathe in a little more, get a little taller. Take that full exhale nice and slowly, don't rush it out. Let's take another one of those nice big inhale breaths, breathing it in. And nice and slowly letting it go. So good, starting to sense into just those senses. Maybe through those breaths, you've closed your eyes, finding a little bit of stillness, a little bit of sweetness, and becoming a little more of the internal. Maybe playing around with that vision from within inside your body. I know we physically can't look in and see our lungs, but sometimes I feel like we can look in and see our lungs. I know it's not the correct anatomy, and it's not like you're looking at blood vessels or the cells, but you can look and imagine your lungs, and you can think about them starting to fill up, expanding, activating into that diaphragm as you take that huge inhale breath. Maybe you can really go in and see just how the body takes that big inhale and that sweet exhale. Starting to feel a little more grounded, starting to feel a little more centered. And then starting to build that awareness for maybe how you're actually feeling. How does the body feel? How does the mind, the spirit feel? Feeling free to take any little movements you might need to take to help the body just feel a touch better. Maybe it's relaxing the jaw, unclenching the teeth. Maybe it's rolling those shoulders back and down, just noticing that little bit of openness. Maybe you adjust or wiggle how you're seated or laying. Maybe just simply drop the head from either side, getting a little more into the neck. Starting to relieve a little tension there. If you'd like to set an intention for your class, for our time together, go ahead and do so. Finding a word or a little phrase that is nice and inviting, true. A little goal. Excellent. Let's seal that in with another big breath in. Breathing in. Notice the pause before you take that exhale. So really fill the lungs as much as you can and breathe into that abdomen. Take that little pause. Try to hold it for an extra moment. And then let it out. Let's start to wake up the body. A little roll into fingers, maybe into wrists, a little wiggle into toes, into feet. And if you are in a seated position, we'll start laying down today. So let's feel free to roll on back and down. As I often say, I'm going to just steal another little sip of tea, although it's super hot. Delicious. If you've never tried green tea or matcha, I recommend trying it. Do a little matcha challenge. So what we're doing, that's what I'm going to be doing this week, is every morning, instead of coffee, I'm having a matcha. And we'll just see the difference, because they always talk about all those benefits of matcha. We'll just test it out. We'll see how it goes. All right, I'm starting off that nice good morning stretch. Reach those arms up overhead. Just right here, trying to find a little bit of length. Trying to find a little bit of openness, letting the body feel really good. I have a palm stacked on top of hands. So I have my hands kind of stacked one on top of each other, just kind of like you would in like swimming or something like that. Just kind of interlacing the fingers and really reaching up so nice and tall. And then I'll relax those arms. I'm going to switch the hands, so opposite hand on top. I'm going to take another one of those big stretches, just kind of stretching a little more into the other side. letting it feel good. Feel like I'm ready to extend the legs long, getting a little more stretch, pointing through the toes, really feeling that arch through the spine. Big inhale, full exhale. Let's relax those arms and start to draw those knees back into the body. I know we just outstretch them, but it feels good to bring them in. And take that nice rock from side to side. Feeling that little massage, that low back, or maybe even in through the shoulders. I was doing some gardening yesterday, and of course I did some more at dusk, right as the sun was going down. And I found all the mosquitoes. So if you were wondering where they were at, they were in my backyard. I think I have like 32 mosquito bites from like 15 minutes in the garden. All right, let's find that stillness. Let's bring those hands behind the knees and start to just extend the feet. Bring them upwards towards the ceiling, and maybe your hamstrings are crazy tight. Maybe they've got some openness. Not being mad at them if they are tight. Sometimes it's just working with that. So your knees can be super bent, or you can work on really finding that length and straightening them. Or you can even just kind of pulse one up, pulse the next one. Just kind of like we do when we're standing and we bend the knee in that forward fold. Just kind of a nice gentle way to add just a touch more movement and bringing down some of that connective tissue that might be a little stuck or tight. Excellent. All right, let's really work on pressing those heels up now, just so that we can really feel that activation into the low back. So press those feet up. If you want a little more, you can start to release those hands, just letting the feet hang out in the air with all that power of the legs, those hip flexors, and maybe even into those lower abdominals. Maybe you're super aware of how much they're working. If this is already too much for you, you're welcome to just do this with knees over hips. So that is a nice option as well. You can still get into hip flexors and into those lower abdominals, but takes a little bit of pressure off those hamstrings. Nice alternative. So even there and anywhere in between feels real good. We're going to go for a little walk this morning, so start to walk on that ceiling. So even if you have the knees bent, it's just a little wiggle of the knees in and out. Nice little gentleness. Maybe you start here and then you feel like adding some more intensity. Bringing the feet overhead, just back and forth. You can really flex through the feet, extending through the heels, still always trying to draw the toes in towards the body. Maybe you feel how that feels. Maybe you point through the toes, imagine you're a little ballerina, dancing across the floor, getting your point on. Maybe flex the feet again, stomping it down, pushing those heels up, drawing those toes in. So good. And you feel those hip flexors start to find a little bit of warmth. Excellent. Let's keep going for 3, 2, 1.5, 1 1/4, 1, and bend the knees. You can drop the feet. Let's just take a little windshield wiper to help release those hip flexors. So good. I love the little windshield wiper. It's also a great way to help prep for a twist. So as you're dropping knees down from one side to the other, maybe you start to key in on some of that rotation that happens through the spine. Let's embrace that. I think that's a great way to do it. Let's reach those arms out nice and long, nice and wide. And I like to hover the knees over the hips. That helps just get a little bit better alignment as we drop the knees down towards one side, rolling onto the hip. I've gone towards the left, but it really doesn't matter. We'll do both sides. So whatever shoulder is opposite the direction you dropped your knees, try to roll that shoulder down. Keep it nice and connected in with the floor and with the mat. Maybe even gaze goes in that direction, opposite the legs. You can always bring that hand up. I know I do this twist often. It really is my favorite. A, because it's straight up so gentle, and B, you can add depth super easily. You can start working on maybe extending those legs a little bit longer. Start to feel how that feels on the hip. on the hamstring, starting to cue in. I've got my hand just hanging out on top of the leg, just roughly above the knee. That has added just a touch of pull or tension, and I have just a nice little release happening on my T-band. So wonderful. Nice little twist. Feel this little more in my shoulder, and I like it. So good. All right, let's start to come on out of it. Let's bring that bend back to the knees. Release the hand. Then with control, starting to maybe press into those arms and the shoulders to stabilize. Let's press those legs all the way up and drop them down towards the other side. Letting them fall down towards the ground. If you've got a gap between your knees, that is A, normal, and B, totally doable. If it's uncomfortable, stuff a little pillow in there. We've got a little block, that'll work too. Any kind of prop. If you don't like that feeling of gravity kind of pulling down on the legs with that big old space, whether it be between the legs or underneath that bottom leg, and trying to keep that opposite shoulder down and maybe gaze going in that direction as well. Hand can hang out on top of the legs. And maybe you add a little depth in playing around with the pose, starting to extend those legs nice and long. Beautiful. Noticing where are you feeling it the most? What has your attention right now? Is it the knees? Is it the shoulders? Is it that maybe a little bit of pressure on the bottom hip? Is it the twist through the spine? Or is it the breath? Are you anchoring in there? There's no right answer. There's no perfect answer. There's just awareness to what has your attention. And then you can ask yourself, is this what you want to have your attention? Ooh, is that not a good life skill that we can practice here with a bit of movement? So super powerful. All right, let's start to slowly come out of this. Bring that head back through center first. Bring a bend back to those knees. Starting to press those arms downward to help stabilize. Let's swing those knees up. Hovering them over the hips. Maybe hang it out at that nice 90 degrees. Nice squareness. Shins are in line with the ground. Let's point through the toes here. Let's just wake up a little bit into the feet. Pointing as hard as you possibly can. Keep pointing. Keep trying to draw those toes as flat as they can possibly get. And relax. Maybe give those feet a little wiggle. Excellent. Opposite one is a nice flex through the feet. So really pressing out through the heel, trying to bring those toes as close in as you possibly can. Really feeling that little bend at the ankles. So you become aware, keep pressing out through that Achilles, trying to find some more length through that little big tendon in the back of the heel. The ankle. So good. And relax. So good. Give those feet a nice little wiggle. Now let's notice here, what's the back doing? You have that big arch in the low back. See, I purposely didn't cue pressing the belly button towards the spine. Where are you hanging out? So if you need to adjust, take that little moment, wiggle it around. Really maybe even drawing the knees just a little bit closer towards the body so you have that low back pressing in, and try to keep that connection as now you bring the knees a little more stacked over the hips. So it takes a little bit of core work. You might notice that really subtle. If you want, you can draw the knees in and let it be really relaxing. You can feel that little tip of the pelvis. You can feel that tailbone extending kind of outwards, upwards. And then let's try to bring those knees a little bit more over the hips. So really, even working with that, let's take a few more of those, starting to build that awareness and a little bit of that strength. This is working with some of those back muscles. So if you have a sore low back, first of all, lay down on the ground, hug the knees in towards your chest, and get that little bit of a release here, and then we can work on strengthening and stabilizing with those muscles by doing some of these little motions here. So releasing your hands will force them to engage. Maybe you're keeping knee to knee, ankle to ankle together, or if I've got externally rotated hips, so my knees often draw apart, and I think that's okay as long as they're not falling completely open. So let's start to bring those knees a little bit more over those hips. Try to keep that belly button pressing in. If you're getting a little bit better at these, so bring the knees back in. As you start to bring the knees over the hips, keep that low back pressing and see if you can bring the knees a little bit farther. Coming off the body. So at some point you'll find that tipping point. So let's play around with it. We'll take 5 more. So bring the knees kind of in towards the body and then starting to extend them. So really just extending them maybe to wherever you find that tipping point. Take a moment at that edge and then draw the knees back in. Feel that reset. Feel that restabilizing, and then let's work it through. So we're doing these a little bit slower. I know we could really just pound these out and get it done and move on. But taking that time to really connect in with that edge, it will help working in on that strength, holding there, keep that low back so nice and strong. So good. I've got 2 more. So if you want to keep going, if you've done your 5, add in a few more. Stay in sync here. So good. Bring them in. Feeling that reset, feeling that spine pressing. So good. Maybe you're extending your legs all the way long and drawing knees back in. Excellent. Let's wrap the hands around the knees. Take that little rock to release. Or just enjoy the stillness. So good. All right, let's bring our attention. Really, we'll do both sides. So if you have a favorite side, go ahead and we'll work with that first. We're going to hug one leg in towards the body, wrapping both hands around that leg and sending the other leg, maybe just planting the foot down or starting to extend that leg nice and long. Drawing that knee in towards the body. Let's add a little rock from side to side here. Starting to get into just that hip joint. So we've strengthened that lower back. We've straightened the lower abdominals a little bit. So let's get into those hip flexors a little bit deeper and then into all of those muscles in that hip socket. And so we're able to get into that. I always like to start with just a little back and forth motion for that leg. And then you can start to transition into circles. And so I just kind of hang on with the one hand and start to make either little circles or big circles or little towards big circles. It really doesn't matter. Starting to get some movement around in that hip, finding where all those tight and tender spots are. And then maybe even adding a little bit of depth and really drawing the knee as far over the body as you can without rolling over. And then finding that openness all the way out towards the one side without rolling over or falling that way either. Letting it feel good. Getting that movement. If you find where those spots where like, oh man, this feels really stuck here, you're welcome to kind of hang out there and then just like add a little wiggle or like add a little pulse in and see if you can let that go. If that doesn't work, take a nice inhale. Then exhale, imagine softening into that area. You have a powerful mind and you can really change through the body by just thinking about stuff. So that's why I like to pause and take those exhale breaths to soften and even visualizing something melting away, whether that be an ice cube on a hot day, melting under the sun, or a perfect square of butter melting in a pan. Those are both great visual cues that help. So I'm going to find my stillness now. I'm still going around in circles. And I'm just going to find the spot that works really well. So really anywhere that you want to find stillness works, whether you want to hug both arms around the knee and really draw it in towards the body, or if you want to start to let that knee drift off towards the side, finding a little bit more openness. Totally your choice. We'll be here. Let's take 5 breaths here. So after 2 breaths, you can move it around to something a little different should you choose. Taking that nice big inhale, full exhale. And taking another breath to maybe find that other position. Finding that nice big inhale breath. Maybe feeling that length that happens through the spine as you breathe in, extending the head upwards. And take that nice exhale. So good. Take your last breath here in this pose. And let's start to release the leg. Touching it down, foot onto the ground, just starting really neutral first. Then as we bring that opposite knee in towards the body, giving it a nice big hug and a squeeze, really kind of shifting your focus towards that side. So you don't have to hold the top of the knee, you can hold behind the knee. You can just hold on to the legging or whatever kind of pant you might be wearing. You can grab a strap as well. And just finding what works best. I've discovered the link of both hands feels real nice. And then if you want that little more, you can extend that other leg. That'll feel good. Maybe you notice that little leg thinning that might be happening through the hip flexor. Love that extended leg as you really press it outwards. All right, let's add a little movement into this bent knee, starting to just get that little rock from side to side. I do this one often in my in the hips classes, straight up because it works super well. Like this is one of the most effective ways of starting to add some mobility in towards the hip. It is also one of the most gentle ways to do so. So no matter what level you're at, and if you can kind of draw the knee at least somewhat in towards the body, odds are you can get a little wiggle happening as well. Of course, there's always exceptions to that, but I'm just saying in normal cases, if you are trying to do some yoga, this is a great way to go in. Or if you run a lot, if you have other exercises, if you lift weights, that hip flexor, you might really feel that squeeze as you get all those squats in. So this is a great way just to help break down some of that crunchiness that tends to happen there. So if you want to transition into some circles, go ahead and make those movements a little bit bigger, or start to think of making nice big circles with the knee, or little circles with the knee. The smaller circles actually have benefit. They're not cheating. The little circles get more into like the tendons of those hip flexors. The bigger circles are starting to involve some of the muscles as we stabilize through this bigger movement. So you're getting into that glute, into a little bit of that quad, maybe even a little into that hamstring, depending on how you're moving the leg. But the knee is bent, so probably not tons into that hamstring, but we never know. Has that potential. Beautiful. So if you've only done these little ones, maybe try to make them a little bigger. If you've only done big ones, try to play around making them a little bit smaller. Excellent. So good. Let's play around with some of those sweet spots. You notice a couple areas is really squeezing in. Maybe you hang out in that area and connect in with that breath, focusing on that exhale and on that softening. Maybe taking a little bit of micro movement or a little shake of the knee or a little movement of the knee. Beautiful. And let that settle into just some comfortable stillness, maybe working with that sweet spot area or just wherever you want. I'm going to start by really hugging my knee in over the body. I'll take a few breaths so that if you want to adjust into a different position, you can. I just know that lots of people, like the traditional version of this is knee over the body, squeezing in. You can get a pretty good release there as well. Let's take that nice inhale breath, breathing it in. Exhale, softening, relaxing through those shoulders. So you're holding extra tension through the arms. And can you start to let that go? So good. Let's take another breath. And if you want to find some movement, maybe you want to let that knee fall a little more open towards the side. That's a great option. Just try to keep that other hip or sits bones kind of planted down. Connecting in, taking those few breaths here. Nice inhale, full exhale. One more nice big breath. And then start to bring that leg just a little more neutral. And let's plant that foot down. And then extend the foot nice and long. Let's take that good morning stretch. Reaching those arms up overhead, pointing through the toes. Feel all of that leg through the body. Nice big inhale. Full exhale. Let's make our way up to a seated position. So if you want to roll onto your favorite side and come up, if you want to rock and roll up, all fantastic options. Beautiful. So hanging out. I'm gonna play around with a different seated position. I'm gonna extend the one leg here. Kind of one of my favorites right now. I don't know what it is, but let's hang out like this. So extending that right leg nice and long. Still trying to find both sits bones. So feeling that little press inward. Start to activate into those extended toes. Beautiful. Finding that strength through the leg. Take a little moment, press out through the heel. Press that leg down in towards the mat. Try not to hyperextend. Lift the kneecap. Press the thigh. Press the hip and the sits bones down real strong on that one side. So good. Let's inhale and keep that nice engagement. Sweep the arms up. Reach it up. Nice and tall. Find that little bit of length. Exhale. Bring the hands down to heart center. Take a nice inhale, reach it up, nice and tall. Exhale, hands down to heart center. Let's take one more of those, reaching it up. Nice inhale breath and exhale, hold, keeping those hands up overhead here. Beautiful. Let's just tip over towards that extended leg and coming over towards the right. Maybe you draw those arms a little bit longer if you want a little more. Just starting to feel into those obliques, starting to feel into that balancing that's happening in the sits bones. And let's come on back up, reaching it up. Let's go over towards the left. Reaching over, just feeling that on the other side. Maybe feel that extra bit of pressure into that one sits bones. Keep trying to ground it down, pressing into the legs. And let's come on back up. Let's take one more over towards the right. Drop that lower arm down and reach across for the knee or for the hip or even for the foot. And see if you can find that little bit of openness. It's adding in a bit of a twist to our side bend here. You're welcome to add in that little pulse, as I love to keep my movements a little more active. Excellent. Beautiful. One more nice inhale, reaching, take that exhale. Let's release, bring both arms up, reach it up nice and tall. How are those shoulders feeling? Let's come on over towards the left and drop that lower arm down. So option to hang out here. Or if you want, from here, you can roll onto this bent knee, coming into a little bit more of a gate pose. So I've got my hand planted, and I simply just start to roll on up, pressing the foot down, and reaching that hand up. Feeling a bit of that openness, lifting through the heart, hanging out here, extending the ears just gently away from the shoulders, finding all of that length. And then let's take an exhale. Let's just make our way back down into seated. So come on back down into that same position up at the beginning. So good. How was that? Excellent. Let's come into a little bow, a little forward fold here. So root both sits bones back down. Let's take that nice inhale, breath and lengthen. Exhale, start to just walk those hands a little bit more forward. So I've got a nice flat back here. I haven't come down super far. I still have the leg extended and I'm still trying to activate into that foot. And then you can add some more depth as you feel that release. So now we're starting to get, as much as this is a hinge at the hips, we might start to feel this through that extended leg, through that right leg, maybe through the inner line of the leg, maybe into the hamstring a little bit. Moving nice and slowly, adding that depth bit by bit, so not going too wild and crazy. If you feel like going further than I currently have, maybe you find this really easy, You can walk the hands out a little bit farther, or even connect forehead onto the stack fists, or even onto the ground. You're welcome to do so. I'm gonna just hang out here though. This is feeling pretty good on my body. I'm feeling that little restriction. Start to notice, are you kind of off towards one side? I just kind of notice that I am. My sits bone is now floating up ever so slightly as I'm trying to find that depth. And so I'm gonna come up just slightly, make sure those toes are pointing up, plant that sits bone back down, and then we'll hang out with that bit of depth. Beautiful. I'm going to create that little pull sensation through the hands just to help keep my back nice and straight. Beautiful. Excellent. One more nice inhale. Nice exhale. Start to press those hands all the way back up. Coming back up to a nice seated position. Let's give that foot a little bit of a shake. Just back and forth. Making sure that you feel this all the way through the leg, so it doesn't stop at the knee. It's still moving through the thigh, rocking back and forth, feeling that little femur in towards the body. So this is a cool little move. Works through you got external rotation as the foot falls out, internal as the foot comes in, but doing it quickly, like just have the leg be jelly, hold no tension there. Just let the foot flop from side to side and getting into that. So kind of a neat way. If you want a little more, as you roll the foot in, kind of slide the foot in a little bit more. So starting to move nice and slowly, that foot towards center. Beautiful. It's kind of a silly move. You feel a little childish doing it, but it does cool good things for the body. So, all right, find your stillness, stop the little wiggle, and let's switch coming into the other side. So drawing that foot all the way in. Starting to notice now that left leg extending long, trying to roll that sits bone back down. Feeling that connection, activating into the leg, pressing those toes up, extending through the heel, pressing the calf down, not trying to hyperextend through the knee, so like lifting that kneecap, stabilizing all those muscles around in there, and then pressing everything down to the hip, pressing down so nice and strong. Oh, feel how active that leg is. It's wonderful. All right, let's take a big inhale breath and start to sweep those arms up. So breathe it in nice and big. Inhale, reach it up nice and tall. Exhale, hands to heart center. Let's take 2 more of those. Nice inhale, reaching it up, moving nice and slowly. Exhale, draw the hands in. And take that nice inhale, last one, sweeping it up, nice and big, interlacing the fingers up at the top, maybe find that little more length, that step over towards the left, reaching over, keep pressing the sits bones down, keep that left leg nice and active. So good. Let's come on back up, reach it up nice and tall, then come over towards the right. Still trying to keep the sits bones activated, so not pressing that hip forward, and keep everything grounded. Beautiful. Let's come all the way back up, reaching it up nice and tall. One more time over towards the left, and let's drop that bottom arm down. Maybe just rest elbow on the leg, maybe hold on to foot, hip, knee. I like the knee because it's a nice anchor point. For me, I get that nice resistance, and it changes my gaze to looking upwards, so I get that little twist in with it. I'm trying to keep that left foot nice and active, reaching so nice and tall. Nice little twisty side bend. You're welcome to add that little pulse in should that feel good for you. So good. Nice inhale. And then an exhale, let's release, sweep both arms all the way back up, working through it, and reaching up, let's tip over towards the right, and drop that bottom arm down, take a nice big reach. If you want that a little more, you can start to roll into that right knee, pressing on up, or if not, you can simply just reach it out here, getting a nice stretch, maybe gaze goes upward, or you can press it in, lifting the hips up, Reaching up so nice and tall and strong. Taking that nice inhale, nice full exhale. Leaving a few moments here. I've just readjusted where my hands at. So if you also need to add a little movement in, changing it around. Lifting through the heart, imagining that left arm is weightless, just floating upward, and ears draw gently away from the shoulders. And let's exhale, start to bring things back down. So good. Excellent. Let's come on back up towards center, just releasing completely. Take a nice inhale, get nice and tall. Roll those shoulders back and down. And take that exhale, start to have that little bow forward. So keeping that nice length through the spine. Pressing those hands in, maybe just in front of you. Finding that nice length. Maybe you walk your hands out a little bit more. Beautiful. Still trying to keep those left toes pointing up. Even if the leg isn't completely active here. And just keeping that nice alignment. Maybe you're feeling that nice pull through the inner line of the leg. A nice little inner thigh stretch. Same thing on the other side. Finding the depth you want to work with today, but still trying to keep both sits bones planted down. So lots of times as we start to reach forward, we start to kind of roll that hip. And you can notice it by the toes, because the toes will start to either completely point forward or kind of be somewhere in between. So finding that little level of depth. I'm also going to create that little pull sensation through the hands to keep my back nice and flat. Just that extra little bit through the spine, adding that nice length in. Excellent. Take that nice exhale. Nice full inhale, breathing it in. Exhale, release. And start to walk those hands back in. And coming back up towards seated. And then let that left foot, left leg totally relax. Let's give it a little shake it out. And starting to rock that foot back and forth. Just feeling that little release, little let go. Beautiful. Oh, yeah. And then if you want that little more, I had a nice little hip crack there. And start to bring that foot nice and slowly, just kind of wiggling it, letting it flop, coming towards the front, coming towards that nice center line. Still a nice little rock from side to side. Let the leg really relax. I know it's weird, just embrace it. Let it be fun. Instead of weird, we'll call it fun. Excellent. All right, let's find that little bit of stillness. And bring the leg back in. Bring both feet to touch. And let the knees fall open. If you started out and it's really super hard and your knees are like sucked right up and in, walk the feet a little bit farther away from the body. And try to connect the big toes and then see if you can let the knees start to fall open and creating that little bit of openness through there. So the farther apart the feet are, the more gentle this will be, the closer together, the more challenge you'll have there. Yes, so it's so good. I often just come into like a nice forward fold here, but I want to add in some other movement first. And so start to just kind of like add a little sway or a little rock from side to side. And when you get to that edge, bring the body forward. So just like little half circles happening here, moving from one side to the next. Just working with some of those muscles that connect in and around the hip. So good. And let's take a few full circles. So coming all the way around. And can you feel that in the low back? Can you feel that through all the sides? Can you feel that through the front? Let's take one more nice big circle this direction. When you get to the top or to neutral, let's switch and just take a few the other direction. Yeah, it's the same muscles, but a different direction, different angles. I feel like just works things just that different way. Beautiful. Come up towards center. Take a nice inhale breath, lengthen, maybe planting hands on the knees, the ankles, or the tops of the feet. Really lift through the spine. Take that exhale and come into your forward fold or bow. Letting it feel good. If you want, you can drop that head down, maybe even rounding through the shoulders, doing all those postural things we always tell you not to do. Here and now, you can embrace it. Do it. Really press those shoulders up, rounding through the spine. So I left my feet quite far away from the body. So if usually you're pretty capable at bringing the feet in a little bit closer, there's a pose called turtle, which I love. It's super cute. And so it involves getting your forearms down onto the ground. So that's kind of the step one. Is you take a hand and you start to slide it underneath the leg. You take the other hand, go for the other side, and then you relax down, and then you have the weight of the legs hanging out on the arms, drawing the body forward, and relaxing everything down. It's just a great way to anchor the body down, and it just kind of shows you where this pose can go. So it's not just something as boring as, soles of the feet together, knees falling open. You can work towards something. And even if you've got this here, and that's easy and good, you can even start to, like there's a forearm stand, there's a handstand available from this position as you start to press in and activate into those shoulders. Tons of core, tons of shoulders, decent amount of arm strength happens there. Not the most gentle version of these things. And so we'll save that for another day, maybe a workshop for anyone who really wants to get into it and work it. We can work through some of that. If you do, drop me a comment. You can hire me to do a workshop or a one-on-one session. Just a little shameless plug there. All right, how's the back feeling? This should be a nice release for it. How are the hips feeling? Got some nice external rotation happening here. Let's take one more breath. Nice big inhale. Full exhale. If you have your arms tucked underneath, let's start to release them. And let's start to come on back up towards seated. Oh, so good. And let's counter that nice back bend we just had. And so let's bring the knees together. And let's roll on back and down onto our backs. You can bring the knees with you if you want. Hug the knees in towards the chest. Take you just a little moment here. Roll the shoulders back and down. Extend the head nice and tall and long. Let's try to find that length through the spine. Beautiful. Let's plant the feet down. Take that inhale. Exhale, draw the belly button in. Press gently into the feet. Make sure you have that low back really connecting in nice and strongly with the floor. The little tuck of the pelvis will happen. Beautiful. And on that next exhale, let's start to press into the feet, lifting the hips up off the ground. So just getting a little back bend in here. Your choice just to hang out like a millimeter off the ground, or if you really want to press in, accentuating that back bend, lifting those hips up super high. Make sure the knees are kind of in line with the hips and with the feet not splaying outwards. Keep that nice mindfulness as you press into the feet to find that little bit more height. Listening to your body. Your feet are a little too far away here. There we go, that's better. So good. If you want that little extra opener, you can release the hands underneath the sit bones and actively pull the hands downwards. So feel how that opens up through the collarbone, through that heart center area. So good. And let's keep holding here for one more breath, taking that inhale and an exhale. And nice and slowly, let's start to roll the spine down, one vertebrae at a time, coming down bit by bit by bit. Excellent. Once you come all the way down, just walk the feet just a little bit wider and windshield wiper from side to side. So you can do the closed knee, closed ankle one if you really want to, but this one here starts to get a little internal rotation, a little external rotation. Now the little internal rotation feels really good, especially after that cobbler pose. So good, so nice. Hopefully these hips are feeling pretty good on you now. Excellent. All right, let's find that stillness. Planting the feet just more towards that nice neutral position. Yeah, we can't not do it. I just have to do a little figure four, a little reclined pigeon. And so let's bring, I'm going to start with the left ankle onto right knee. Send that left knee back. Start to find a little openness here through the hips. Letting it feel really good. Nice inhale. Nice exhale. Relaxing through that left side. And when you're ready, let's start to float that right leg up. Maybe you just hold on to that first leg, that left knee, left ankle, maybe top of right knee, keeping the legs drawing in towards the body. And if this is already too intense, you can even just keep like a tippy toe down, or if you've got a block or a book that you can rest the foot on. Or even doing this against the wall, then you can just kind of press the foot in towards the wall at whatever depth you want. So just, playing around with the distance you want away from the wall. And then as you start to find that openness here, maybe you already have, it's a little bit easier. You can reach the hands right on through that little hole you created, grabbing for that right side, drawing the legs in, trying to keep those shoulders relaxed. In whatever pose or version you're in, and just holding on with enough tension to keep those legs drawing in towards the body, and feeling that little pull on the left hip, feeling all of those sweet spots, getting into that piriformis in the glute, getting into the side of the hip, all the good stuff that happens there. And you can add a little pulse in, drawing the knee or the leg a little bit closer and releasing. You can rock back and forth. This is just such a great pose for the hips, for the low back. If you want a little more through that right hamstring, you want to send those right toes up towards the ceiling. And extending that leg nice and long, maybe flexing through the foot, activating into that back line of the leg. Maybe keep drawing those legs closer over the body. And connect again. Let's take that nice big inhale. Full exhale. Beautiful. If that leg is still extended long, let's add a bend back to it. And let's start to release the hands. Bring the arms out nice and long like a T. Getting ready to do our little reclined pigeon twist. So dropping the legs down towards the right. So I have my left ankle over my right knee and my legs go down towards the right. And feeling that nice little stretch. Maybe gaze goes towards the left. Feeling free to adjust through the legs however you want here. There's no official rules. I'm not going to come give you a report card of, you did it like this deserves this grade. There's none of that. What feels best here for you, for your hips, for your spine, for your legs. Maybe even for your shoulders. I'm going to go for the little box arm, just finding a little more openness through the shoulders. And if you notice, even on me, I have my left knee hanging out up towards the ceiling. I have that foot totally planted down and in. That is A-okay. I have no expectation that both knees touch down towards the ground. And when I'm hanging out here, I'm getting a nice little pull on that IT band. It feels nice and stretchy. And the IT band connects from the side of the hip and then down towards the knee, just along the side there. Usually holds tons and tons of tension. If you've ever had a massage and they've worked it, you feel it and you know what I'm talking about, all that tension that hangs out there. One more nice inhale. Full exhale. Releasing the arms if you're holding on to anything. Then let's start to untwist the swing those legs back up. Uncrossing them. And coming right into the other side. So right ankle onto left knee. Start by sending that right knee back. Start to feel a little bit of that pull and twist through that hip. Not really twist, just that nice movement, nice stretch through there. Start to relax. And then as you're ready, start to float that left leg up. Maybe just onto your stool that you might have hanging out there, onto a wall that might be close-ish. Drawing those legs in towards the body. So if you are reaching through that thigh and you have your gaze going backwards and you're kind of on the top of your head, that might be an indicator that you're trying to get in a little bit too deep on that pose or that posture. So if you can tuck that chin in, keep the head down, keep the shoulders down, that would be respecting that spine a whole lot more than trying to add that extra bit of depth. So if you need like a tie, a little belt, a scarf to help kind of maybe lasso that foot or lasso behind the leg, go ahead and play around with that. Maybe you add that little rock from side to side, or maybe you add that little pulse in, playing around with that edge, finding that max, finding what feels really good. Keep yawning here, but I feel like it's because my jaw needs to release. I must have been clenching my teeth last night a bit. So yawn is a great way to stretch the jaw. If you want a little more, through that left hamstring, you can take that opportunity, send those left toes up towards the ceiling, flexing through that foot, extending through the heel, feeling it through the back line of that left leg, so good. But if you no longer feel anything through the hip, that's odds are, as you have that foot perfectly up towards the ceiling, you might not be drawing the legs in towards the body as much as when the knee was bent. So if you keep pulling up those legs, drawing them inwards, oh no, now my foot's not perfectly up towards the ceiling. Great, it's a little bit of a deeper stretch. Perfect. Toes, your choice. I actually prefer this with the knee bent. This really lets me focus more in on that right hip, which is my target area for doing these. There are better hamstring stretches that exist in the world. So good. All right, let's take one more nice inhale. One more nice full exhale. If you haven't bent that left leg, go ahead and do so. Let's start to release the legs, reaching those arms out nice and long, and dropping the legs down towards the left. So your choice for how the legs fall or how you adjust them here. Maybe the gaze goes off towards the right, finding exactly what works best for you. I've got an awesome IT band stretch happening on this side again, so I'm just going to hang out right here. We'll take that 3 to 5 nice slow breaths here to let the body settle into the nice twist. Letting it feel good. Feeling that nice little release. I'm going to go for the boss arms again, finding that extra openness through the shoulders. Sometimes I just describe what I'm doing so you know if you see me moving on screen or if you're doing your own thing, even better. I really love that. I attended a yoga class this week, and I was such a rebel in the class. But she said right off the get-go, if you feel any movements you wish to be taking, go ahead and take them. And so she's teaching these poses, and like, sure, they were great. There's not anything wrong with them. But I was like, ooh, I want to kind of add this in. Ooh, I want to kind of find this little extension. How does this feel? It was a great opportunity for me to get to play around in class. And the instructor comes to me afterwards, and she's like, I absolutely love that. I would look over and you'd be doing something totally different. was like, they weren't totally different. They're at least the same base work. She's like, but it's so inspirational, and it's really cool because it gives people ideas and helps them grow their practice. And so as you just find your own freedom on your own mat, whether you are doing something different or even just taking it easier, like you're finding different ways to modify, like that's so valuable. And it's so exciting to see, especially like from a teacher's perspective, but also like as a student, it's really nice. So if you've never done yoga in a studio, that little community aspect is so wonderful. So I do encourage it. When you're ready, if you are ready, little tribes that yoga creates. All right, let's work our way out of this. Releasing any binds that you might have. Starting to bring those legs back up towards neutral, uncrossing. Beautiful. You can take that little windshield wiper from side to side to feel that little release. Or we'll just dive right into the freestyle portion of the class. So if there's any other pose or movement you want to take before settling into it, just a little shavasana, you can go ahead and do so. Maybe you hug the knees in towards the chest. Maybe you go for that little waterfall pose, playing around with hamstrings a little bit more. Maybe you go for that nice happy baby. Can't not finish a class without doing one. Something that feels so good about that. Excellent. And when you're ready, take the time you want to play around and find those poses or positions. But if nothing's coming to mind and you are just ready to settle in and find some softness, make your way into your final position. Whatever your shavasana looks like today, let it be good for you. Excellent. Taking that nice inhale. Nice exhale. In whatever version of shavasana you have found yourself in, just create a little bit of space. Maybe you roll the shoulders back and down. Maybe you let the feet fall open. Maybe you just lift through the crown of the head, finding some more space between the vertebrae. And then that's connected. Let's take 3 full inhales that exhale audibly out to a sigh or just some kind of release that you want to make. So let's breathe it in nice and big, breathing into that diaphragm. And exhale, let it go. Noticing that little pause. And then taking that next breath, filling the lungs. Exhale, release. Taking that little pause. And inhaling nice and deep. Last one here. Big inhale breath. And exhale, let it all out. Notice the softness through the body. Notice that settling that happens. Maybe even noticing that little sparkly sensation in the head from those big breaths. This is where I will roll up and say my goodbyes as you take your time in your shavasana, enjoying that little piece. Maybe remembering that intention and just letting the body feel spectacular. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day filled with moments of joy. And I pray that you're always blessed. Thank you for joining me, and namaste.